and I had a 18-month-old, I think, and a pregnant wife at that point. And I was watching the service, and I was like, this, I have been to Independent Presbyterian Church in the 1700s building, and this aesthetic and this choir, like behind, you can't even see the choir. It just echoes with praise. And it's not about people. And it permeates into your being a part of that. It's something otherworldly that God is doing. And then coming and looking for a church here that was that way, I just was able to contextualize that. But the first time we went to this non-denominational church, 3 or 4 military families invite us out and say, hey, we're going to Outback afterwards. It'd be great. They have kids. Like, their family is attractive, but they had a smoke machine and 1 or 2 people doing a rock concert. And it was very, like my pastor talks is like, God is rad. He's my dad. It's just like this, it's not how you approach the Lord of hosts that smote the firstborns of Israel, or of Egypt, and brought them out of bondage and parted the Red Sea and covered them up and provided them manna in the wilderness. And you can't even look at me or you will die. Moses, you can see the remnant of my garment as I'll put my hand. So as I pass by you, you don't see and die. You literally lack the capacity to take how amazing I am. And the mountain smoking and swallowing up the unfaithful. And like, this is not a God to mess around with, y'all, at all. Right. He is holy. And there's aspects about the Jewish faith about, like, they're not even going to write the name of God without going through ceremonial washing, without throwing away the quill or the stylus after they wrote it, and this reverence for who he really is and how far separated I really am from him, yet access to him.
Yeah.
And so I have this 18-month-old son, and I have this my pregnant wife, and I've experienced this really rich tradition of worship and something otherworldly. And I'm looking at this, and it seemed cheap to me, but I'm like, why do I gotta pick between a worship service that is God honoring and a church that invites me out to dinner after worship? Yeah. Why do these certain, and we had a little bit of issue with Independent Presbyterian, but we also started working with the youth group, and then that led to relationships with parents. And we're a young couple, and we're trying to serve. And I was in the military, and I was like getting on the boys, and I'm like, you guys do push-ups. That's ridiculous. You guys are late, and I'm like putting in some discipline in the youth group. And then they're going back and telling their parents, like, this dude, he smoked us. And then they're coming up and they're like, man, your wife is discipling our daughters, and yet still don't have like a older family and a lot of wisdom, but we're going to serve out of what we have. And realizing that when we just poured ourselves out, like, it's crazy. You go say, I'm going to help with the youth group. I'm going to help, I'm going to chaperone. I'm going to disciple these younger boys that I have. I'm going to use my current experience to date that led to better relationship. And it wasn't like waiting there and being like, well, if we don't get an invite to church this time, then honey, we are not coming back, And a lot of people will do that, is they come to church and they're like, what am I going to get? Let me, and then they get it back in the car and they do an ROI on the church. What did I receive? Is the investment worth the return? What's the yield? Is it matching S&P? Is it matching what the world would give me if I went over here? And we're doing it based on a pragmatic approach instead of, I'm going to find, I guess, and the other thing to nest into that is I realized that what was going to happen is that the way that our church approached God and the way that the church's liturgy or the church's worship dealt with God and our relationship with him was going to affect my kids' view of who God is. And so it's going to be me too. It's going to be relationship. It's going to be all these things that are in their life reinforcing or helping. And I have to be probably the most significant thing on earth as far as their salvation and faith is concerned. But then that this church should reinforce a right image of God. And so I was just like, I just can't go to the squishy one, the smoke machine, the rock concert, the how can we make worship appeal to and be a cheaper copy of what a rock concert is by the culture, and it's actually in something that is timeless, something that is otherworldly, something that stands in stark contrast, that even where you're at, you want meat, like you live the new age. You need, like, what is what pin it down. Where does it touch? How does this equal this? And whatever you think, like, it's just for you. And this is your path. And this, it's like, no, it can't be that. I'm telling you right now, this is a mess. Right. It's got to be something else. It's got to be bigger. It's got to be, and so I guess that's our criteria, or my thing that I've kind of put out is find a church where the men are leading it, not a male pastor, but there's a shadow female mafia that is running things behind the scene, and it's a bunch
Whisper Network
whispering and creating, Michael Foster talks about white knight syndrome. They'll create this drama and it's this false chivalry. I got to run over and save the women from whatever. Not, where's your husband? Hey, where are you? What's going on over here? Deal with that right now, or you're under discipline. Like, this is not okay. And understanding hierarchy even there. Like, this is not something that the elder goes and addresses to the woman. This is the elders going to the man and saying, fix your house, bro. Like, this is your leadership is being, and it's not in it's as if I am not leading well at home and the elders go to my wife and be like, whoa, bro, what's going on? Like, are you going to her and talking to her because you're scared of me? And you're actually scared. Like, how does this work here? Yeah. And if you actually understand the hierarchy, and if you're leading well, and you can go and talk to people, and but then there's this other side of it, that God is bringing all of us to himself in a unique way as believers. There's the sum of these relationships.